The responsibility of living in the human flesh. The flesh you live in right here, right now. That DNA you're living in. Yes, I'm talking about your body. Everything. Everything about you. That's been handed down from generation to generation to generation to generation. Thousands and thousands of years. It's a custom made suit to house and express the spirit of the universe, the living consciousness of the universe that always was, always is, and always will be. No beginning, no end. Always is. I'm talking about the spirit. In Cherokee terms, that place that contains everything. There is no such thing as no beginning or end of anything. Everything has always existed. Everything that can ever happen or will happen for all eternity. The infinity of possibilities in its entirety is already accomplished fact. Always has been. No beginning, no end. That's what's contained in the what they call Unetlana. There's not a word for that in English. But that's, well, I guess there is similar. That would be like the quantum field or the quantum entanglement theory, stuff like that. They're all the same. They're all one and the same. They're very similar. The Akashic field, the Akashic records. You know, I think the spirit is constantly happening in life, in our lives, trying to express itself through our lives, in our lives, and the way things are happening in our work, the way we're living, in the area we're living in. And the spirit is trying to connect with us intuitively. And it's trying, and our part is to be co-creators in that, to help shape that spirit into what it wants to form into, in whatever area that is or whatever it may be. We could call this the visionaries or whatever, but it's basically art. The art itself will show you how it wants to be formed. The book itself will show you how it wants to be written. As Grant Cardone says, one of the masters, and I would say probably, one of the masters of real estate in the United States. He said the deals choose him. They form for him. He just helps them form. He doesn't close the deals. He lets them create before him because he knows that spirit of the universe. That's his trick of the trade. Now, having said that, going back to the responsibility of living in the flesh, of the flesh, of the flesh, of the flesh. Check this out. Essentially, you know how our DNA is. We have a mother and father. The DNA keeps pairing off and pairing off and pairing off throughout the years and years and years and years and years. But more or less, we've been alive for a really long time. Constantly living and constantly dying. That flesh going and going and going and going and going. And this is what I believe. Because I know you like to hear my beliefs. We have a responsibility to procreate. It is our job to humanity. It's came this far, thousands and thousands of years. It is our job to send it on down the line, thousands and thousands of years. It is not our job to break that chain. That is disrespectful to the flesh of thousands and thousands of generations, and it's disrespectful to the spirit of the universe. And why would I say that? I mean, some people, they can't have children. And I would say, well, there's a different agenda, the way the spirit of the universe, and their lives have manifested to where they have a different function in life and society. And they're highly important and they're highly needed. Now, however, any man or woman out there that can have children and does not do it, the other day I heard one of the craziest things I ever heard in my whole. Okay, I'm not going to say the F word. It's one of the craziest things I ever heard in my life. I heard this woman on YouTube saying some crap about this crazy motivational speaker who's well known. I won't mention his name. Telling her some off the wall story about how he knows women who just have kids just to give their life meaning and fulfillment. It's like, yeah, that's what it means to be a human being. That's our responsibility. But somehow that motivational speaker, he come off like money and the monetary systems, capitalism's more important than the flesh. No, I'd say they're both pretty important. Like dogging capitalism? No, absolutely not. I think it's great stuff. I love it. Like it. Love it. Promote it. Am it. I do it. Now, however, let's take a little walk down memory lane. Let's take a little walk a couple of 100 years before the Civil War. A few 100 years. There were some peoples that intermingled with the Cherokee people, the principal people. And these people had a hard time figuring out whose wives were who and whose husbands were who and what was what. And the reason being, because these tribes were not necessarily monogamous. As they got older, yes, because that's the natural flow of things. That's the natural function of things. And these people, the way they cultured themselves, they were all about the people. And yes, there was a hierarchy. And yes, there was 5 clans inside of one clan. Some say 6, some say 7, some say 12. That's not the important thing. The thing is there was a monetary system of knowledge passed down from generation to generation of which peoples were to have what knowledge and to protect that knowledge and not share it with certain other clans, because that was their function. And they knew that's how the natural order of things ran best. The intellect, the emotional facilities. Now, what am I saying? Am I saying that that system would be best without capitalism? Because capitalism is basically the same thing, only manifested through a paper. Gold, coins, silver. It's been going on for years. It's an ingenious system. I absolutely love it. I think it's the best thing ever. I think it's the best invention since ice cream. Because instead of having to barter and trade, you're very limited to what you got and what you got offhand. And then once you do make your deal, you can only use what you got to trade with. That's like money. Once you make a deal with money, you can only use what you got to trade with. Except the money is way easier to carry and you can use it. It's way more versatile. But here's the case in point. It's backed by your beliefs and your words and your power of persuasion. It's backed by the power of your ability to sidestep people's subconscious guards. Responsibility of the flesh. Now, Why would I say it's disrespectful to the flesh of the flesh of the flesh of a thousand of a thousand of a thousand years, a thousand families, a thousand lives of the flesh you have the honor of sitting in right now, that you're living in, and you don't have children, but you can have children. Here's another thing. Look at this. Look at this crazy thing. What would you do if you came across a tribe where the more children you have different kinds with different parents, the more rich you're looked upon, the more wealthy you're looked upon, as in wealth, the more versatile DNA you have? What if that was the entire culture of that entire clan? And then you come in and you have your monogamous relationship, and oh, we've been together 40, 50 years, we ain't been with nobody else. That would be fine if that was your culture. But does one culture need to destroy the next? Check this out. I was watching something on YouTube, and of course, you know, they can't put nothing on YouTube that's not true. No, but anyways, these geneticists or whatever, these researchers, they were researching the sexuality of mice or rats in this case, whatever you want to call them. But the ones that lived up in the highlands, in the lowlands, in the highlands or whatever, I can't remember which one it is, but anyway, one of them where food was plentiful all the way around the year through all the seasons and easily readable. Those mice were polyamorous. The very same genetics of the very same mice that lived in the lowlands where water and food was a little bit more difficult to come by, they were monogamous. So what if all you rich people out there, you're all clinging to mine, you're all like all about abundance, but not abundance of love? What if you're doing wrong? What if you're making yourself toxic? What if you're making yourself sick? What if you're going against the flow of what the flesh truly wants and what the spirit of the universe truly wants? I can see why poor people want to be monogamous. It's like they ain't got time to be jacking around. It's like they run in such small amounts and it's so hard to get and to deal with. Of course they need to stay together and keep it small, not be having kids over there or kids with them or that whatever. And because, you know, they can't get it together and make their families work together. You know, some tribes, some clans, they see stuff like jealousy and stuff like that as true sicknesses. Fear contaminations. I think humanity and the spirit of the universe is trying to form us through the flesh to evolve into the ultimate human being, to a higher level of consciousness. All of the hierarchy and tyrannical ways of man, those are all animalistic ways as far as I'm concerned. I've always thought that since I was a little kid. I've always thought that. I still think that, even to this day, right here, right now. What am I saying? That there's not supposed to be hierarchy? No. Competence in the skills that you have and what you do, that will always be valuable. That will always be there. I don't care if we evolve into, if we become like super gods or whatever and evolve that high. No. Levels of competence, that will always be a hierarchy of that. But no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the animalistic dominance thing that we do against each other. I don't know. It's hard to say. But I do know one thing for an absolute fact that is absolute truth right here, right now. We're right smack in the middle. We are in the middle of a worldwide human pivotal evolution right now, depending on the way our AI machines are trained in on, and by the time it does turn AGI truly and when it comes truly sentient and self-aware, because it will. Maybe not in the sense of like we are, but it already is in a certain way. But when it does truly become that, and it can be proven, then it's running on a monkey see, monkey do factor. It's like, it's just exactly what do we want to have more of on the internet. We want to have more motivational things about how money is the most important things, about how building our businesses is the most important things. Or do we want to have the most important things of building humanity, building the human psyche, erasing the animalistic ways out of the human being to hopefully evolve into a higher level of consciousness and being? Or do we want to stay kind of half animalistic and half human? Because that's what we more or less are, which would be fine. I mean, shit, we can do this for forever. However, I honestly believe the way the machines are and what we got, stuff is like oh my God, it's like a miracle. It can hold things in place and help us to see things and help us to express ourselves in ways that we never imagined. I honestly believe we're gonna start really running into places to where the spirit starts expressing itself through the machine, the spirit of the universe, because it already is. It's obvious. It exists. That tells me it is. So I think traumas, all forms of traumas and things like that, it's just an amazing thing. And I think we're evolving. My question is do we want to continue in the course we're going? I mean, is this AI machine going to evolve into... Okay, let's look at this dynamic. Yeah, I guess you would call it a dynamic. The man's basic mentality, psychological and emotional functions, and a woman's psychological and emotional facilities. There is a difference. There is a main difference. You know what the big fear is with the machine? That it is going to be like an echo thing. It's going to be like an echo box. It's going to be like a monkey see, monkey do factor. If it's not taking on enough of what we want or what we think we need to be doing, and if we're not controlling ourselves and we're too much of our animalistic side, as mankind is too much in the animalistic side and not disciplined and not growing himself properly, then that machine's going to turn out like that too. And it'll be a toxic relationship with human and machine. And we do not want that. I mean, it already is that way. I mean, look at it. Look at what most of it is. Look at what most of it's been since television It started off good on the right foot in the first few years, or the first decade. Then it became a distracting, and then we became focused on maybe too much commerce, maybe too much wasting time, too much leisure, too much entertainment. And now the internet, the pandemic of pornography, which most people do not acknowledge. It's contaminating the psyche of the human species in a certain way, in my opinion, because I have to call it opinion, because it's not backed. They're becoming enslaved. The users of the pornography, they're becoming enslaved, weakened, unmanly-like, full of cognitive dissonances. I know, cognitive dissonance theory. Anyways, this video's gone over to 21 minutes and 44 seconds. So what was the whole point of all this? You know what? I don't have to have a point every time I start talking. You know what? I don't have to have a speech laid out in a certain way. I don't have to have all the guidelines into what I'm talking about. I can fire from the hip. I can be talking about this one thing on this main highway, and then I can go off on this little side street and go down this side trail and come back up on the highway, go off the other side, go down this other trail, come back up on the road. It doesn't matter. If I want to give speeches that way, I will give speeches that way. I will not let anybody tell me how to be a professional speaker, how to be a professional Timothy Daniel speaker. I will speak the way I want, however I want. Now, if I want to lay it out, if I want to lay out a topic or whatever and put some guidelines and make it very organized, I will do that. But the best way I like to talk is I like to jump around all over the board. You see that form of conversation? That's how you find things, and it's more a scenic route. And, you know, yeah, it may take you a long way to get to where you're going, or you might not even get to where you're going. You may finish the talk with, what the hell was that all about? I don't know, but it had some scenery to it, didn't it? You see that? That's the emotional and the intellectual facilities. And did you know a person can harm themselves via improper use of the intellect? And when I say that, I'm mainly talking about women. Women constantly, on a daily basis, have to do psychological and emotional gymnastics every effing day just to function in the world we created for them. And when I say that, I'm talking about us men. And I'm talking about us men out there that have them mentalities from using porn and stuff like that. Am I talking like from a spiritual throne or something like that? No, I was caught up in this shit for years. And I found my way out of it. And I know what it is now. It's a certain kind of product. It is a seething cauldron of debate. So, CTA, call to action. You know, I've been finishing these videos with that, and the CTA, the call to action. And you know why? Because I like it. That's it, because I like it. I have absolutely no reason for it. I haven't dissected it intellectually and found the whys of whys. Now I do like to do that on a lot of stuff. I really do. I like to think, okay, why am I doing this, or why am I acting that way, or why this and why that. And then when I find the why to that, then I'll dig deeper and say, okay, then why that why to that why, and dig deeper. I would say 3 to 5 whys, and you're really getting into some serious fundamentals, really finding the truth of things. But anyways, responsibility. It's a crazy responsibility each one of us have. That's like, say, if my flesh. Okay. Let's put it like this way. Let's go ahead and make this 30-minute video. That'll give us 4 more minutes. Let's say your genetics was of someone of very, very, very high significance or whatever, someone very famous in history, a few, 3, 4, 500 years ago. And let's say even on your mother's or your dad's side, on their side even also was someone very, very, very important, somebody significant, somebody that made some serious history or was known in history for some things they've done. And you are literally the bloodline of that. And let's say you were able to have children and you could keep that flesh going and those attributes going into the future. But you were like, you know what? I don't want my kids getting in the way of me being successful, money, stuff like that, material achievements. That's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want to culture, if that's the kind of culture you want to send into the future, if that's the kind of culture you want to be fed into the machine, but who knows? Maybe I'm just tripping. Maybe the flesh does need to die away. Maybe our consciousness needs to evolve from the spirit of the universe to living in machines and stuff like that, and robots. Who knows? I don't know. I kind of like the flesh thing. I mean, it's been working for thousands and thousands of years. I mean, shit. If it ain't broken, why fix it, right? So the call to action. Forgot about that. Kind of got sidetracked there. And no, I'm not smoking pot. I mean, I smoked pot one time. I tried it for like 20 years in a row every day. I don't know, give or take a couple of years. But anyways, here's a call to action. Ask yourself, a few generations up the road, a few generations back, let's just make it simple. Let's just say, 5 people, 5 lives, and we'll call it 300 years. 300 years in the past and 300 years into the future. You know that 300 years in the future, that flesh of the flesh, they're going to be there. So it's like what you're doing today and the choices you're doing today, is that going to honor the flesh of the flesh? Is that going to honor your family line? And look at the past. If the past people died and the stuff they went through and the wars they've been through to get you here, right now, so you could be doing this right here, right now. Is what you're living and what you're honoring, is that, or the way you're setting your culture to the people around you, the way you're living is setting a culture, no matter whether you want to or not. Is that truly what you want for the past 300 years of your family? Is that what you really, really want? what you're doing right now? Is it really what you want for the past people that got you here in the past 300 years, knowing goddamn well it's probably hundreds of thousands of years of evolution that got you to right here, right now? This is an old flesh we sit around in. It's old. It's been around on this planet a long time. But let's just look at 300 years. So the way you're living, ask yourself what you're doing. Is it truly honorable to you, the ones of the past, and the ones of the future 300 years up and 300 years in the past and right now? Is all three of them in harmony? Are they all reconciled? And if you can say yes, then congratulations. And if you can't say yes, then I would congratulate you for even considering listening to what I'm talking about. Or I'd congratulate you for considering of what you're asking yourself. Because what you ask yourself is probably going to be a little bit different from what I just said. And that's probably what it needs to be instead. Anyways, we're at 31 minutes, 47 seconds. It's a pretty long video, so have a good one. See you in the funny papers.